I think we need to wrap it up on Abu Dhabi and move on to our end of season awards. Now, we don't need an Oscar for this because we've got the Jordans. So we're going to exactly the growlers. We're going to choose the winners who will take home absolutely nothing because you were in charge of the budget. But we're going to start with who we think was driver of the year, and we've got two suggestions here, which would be either Lando Norris or Max Verstappen.
Lando finished so strongly and such a brilliant job but at the end of the day, it's the number of points that wins the world championship. And I think overall throughout the season, a very strong start, lackluster in the middle, or certain problems in the middle. But I think Brazil changed it all for him. He was so determined. That was one of the best drives I've ever seen in my entire life. It'll go down in my brain as something that I will always remember 2024 for. I felt that at the time, I said that race puts Max above everybody else, and that's why I'm saying I'm going with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think driver of the year was definitely Max, but isn't it exciting going forward? He's got Lando there, who's discovered what it is to lead from the front. You've got Oscar Piastri, you've got Charles, you've got various other drivers that have shown themselves to be winners. George, of course. We've got the young talents coming in. I think 25 with relatively stable regulations.
Even Lewis could do it, If Lewis could remember when he left McLaren and he went to Mercedes. God rest him, but Nicky Lauda and Nicky used to push me into McLaren to go and speak to Lewis to do all the little messaging for him because he couldn't do it because of a connection. He was so strongly involved with the Mercedes. Now, it was meteoric what he did at Mercedes. So who's to say that he's not going to find a new Lewis Hamilton inside his helmet and inside his suit? And he also could be up there, David. That's the intriguing thing about 25 because I think it has untold possibilities, and that's why it's going to be so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move it to race of the year, and we've got three here: the Brazilian Grand Prix that you've already mentioned, the British Grand Prix, or the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was obviously that slightly controversial McLaren team order race, but an absolute statement of intent of their performance. So which one of those three would you say was the race of the year?
Well, probably gave the game away, didn't I? Because I thought, I've mentioned both of the ones that I think are in contention, which is the British Grand Prix. And I'd like to say the British Grand Prix because having gone there, been brought up, did most of my racing there, or based from there, the factory, the Formula One team. And I love the way Silverstone are moving forward as an entity. And we all thought that had problems. It's absolutely fabulous to see what's happening at Silverstone. But on pure excitement, I have to go with the Brazilian Grand Prix. It was just too electric, too much going on. The passing movers, the positioning on the track of Max and how he passed people reminded me of Ayrton Senna. He always was able to find the driest area, even though it didn't ever look as if it was the driest area. And I have to applaud the circuit for finishing and being able to complete the race because that was something else. Most other people would have red flagged it long before that. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix. Sorry, Silverstone.
Yeah, well, look, three great Grand Prix. I'm going to say Hungary for me really sort of struck a nerve in as much that it was reliving what I'd experienced when I was at McLaren and the difficulty when a team has to, and you've had that situation yourself as a team owner, when you have to what's the word? When you have to get involved in the running order of the two cars. So I really felt that was a race that I could explain from what it was like as a driver to be asked or to be told to move over and to do the right thing for the team. So that from a commentary point of view is where I felt sort of most engaged. Best newcomer. We've got just two names here. There were more, but because we had Jack Doohan make his debut, of course, in Abu Dhabi. But we've got Franco Colapinto and Oliver Bearman. Who really stood out for you out of those two?
to just step into a Ferrari with the amount of pressure from the team, the press, everything. Carlos Sainz in the hospital having his appendix out. I have to go for Oliver Behrman. My God, what he did in his first race to score points was, for me, blew me away. Absolutely. Yes, it'd be difficult for him going forward. I wish he probably hopes that he will get in a Ferrari at some stage. But Oliver, for me, you've made your mark up here in my mind. You'll be one I'll always be looking down the score sheet to see where you are.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. To score points for two different teams in his debut year showed that age is not necessarily a gauge of performance, and the lack of Formula One experience didn't stop him from delivering exactly as he was expected to. I think actually all credit to Ferrari. Big move for them. You don't normally expect to have your race driver off having his appendix out, and normally you would expect a team like Ferrari to sort of take the safe road and go with someone with experience. But all credit to Fred Vasseur, the team principal, who ran his own junior team, ART, and for him it's like, right, who is the best person for the role rather than what's the biggest name for the role. The next one is the biggest surprise of the year, and I'm going with this because I never knew you were Adrian Newey's manager until you popped out of the silent assassin. You popped out of the undergrowth and stole Adrian away from Red Bull and then did the deal of the century with Aston Martin. How on earth did you manage to keep that quiet, and how on earth did you manage to do that deal?
I do a lot of talking. I'm Irish. Irish people do a lot of talking. But when there's money involved and you need to keep your trap shut, you do, invariably. It's one of those things. Adrian was very united as well. I mean, we used to speak a lot with regards, don't come near me, don't say anything, don't do this, let's keep normal protocol going as we should. He played a great game. I mean, the most difficult, if I was to be very honest, in my lifetime, David, I haven't said this to many people, but in my lifetime, I've done some really, really scary deals, deals that have come off, some that haven't. But I really believe the negotiations I had with Red Bull were of the finest and the best caliber. They were incredibly decent and proper people to deal with. They understood exactly the situation, why I was talking to them, and the position of Adrian, having been there 18 years. He was a huge servant to them. He's won dozens and dozens and dozens of world championships there. But it was probably one of the greatest deals I've ever done in my life. Not financially, but mentally, I felt so great about how that's structured.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the deal of the century. And summing up the gift of the gab and the ability to make numbers out of nothing of the Irish. He hasn't won dozens and dozens of race world championships at Red Bull.
It sounds good, though, doesn't it? It sounds good.
It does. It does.
He's won a lot more world championships than you and I have. So I think he's dozens and dozens.
Okay,
actually, it
absolutely.
is dozens and dozens. It's 24, isn't it? Or 26. How many world championships has he won?
Yeah, but not at Red Bull, surely. Am I getting confused? Are you counting drivers and constructors?
You're correcting me. You're absolutely right. I take back what I said.
Okay, right. The final one of our Jordan Awards, it's the FFS moment, the for fuck's sake moment of the year. So for me, I think the FFS moment of the year was Lewis signing to Ferrari. I just never saw that coming. What was your FFS moment of the year?
We're on the same page here, because my FFS is, I say to John Elkann, who's the chairman of that group, what the fuck was he thinking about in getting rid of Carlos when he had a very happy, friendly, structured team that knew how to work together? The drivers got on well together. Fred Vasseur had a real opportunity to bring this team great success. Now he has to start thinking about gelling and mending a way that he can get a new member of team, egos, everything involved. Lewis is a particularly nice person. I'm not sure there's many nicer people on the grid than Lewis Hamilton, so I don't think he'll have a problem there. However, my FFS goes to John Elkann of Ferrari for even signing off on that deal. It was absolutely suicidal to get rid of Carlos.
Yeah, well, time will tell whether your prediction is correct or not, or will Ferrari end up being the sort of re-energizing of the Lewis Hamilton of old, and he comes out and does a Nigel Mansell, wins his first ever Grand Prix for Ferrari, and then just becomes, an absolute legend within for the Tifosi. That would be a hell of a story, and that would be a great way to start the season, which will be in Melbourne in, what is it, about 94, 95 days from now, so not long.
I need a break, David.
So I need a break.
I would expect I will be fully recovered by then, and we'll do a lot more of these on a personal basis. I want to do Monaco in particular for the live podcast, Abu Dhabi, and even more. And the one at Silverstone, of course, we can't leave that one out because that was where it all started.